For the past 12 months, the Queen's husband has allowed cameras to follow his day-to-day life. And now on ITV1, it's the first of that two-part documentary. The Duke, a portrait of Prince Philip.
For 60 years, the Duke of Edinburgh has been half of one of the most celebrated and enduring partnerships of modern times. But what do we really know about him?
Who was this penniless foreign youngster who'd nabbed the heir to the throne?
He'll bark at you straight away. He does that to everyone, and actually he responds better if you treat him in the same way.
He's a great action man.
Quick-witted, funny, irascible.
The Duke of Edinburgh is a gift to the media because he will be incredibly rude to them, and that becomes the story.
Frankly, you probably ought to go and talk to the Duke of Edinburgh by himself about that.
Prince Philip is not a man who forgets grudges.
Would we rather have a dumb, boring English duke, or somebody who occasionally did seem to step out of line and made a mistake?
He has an inclination to always support the underdog.
The Duke of Edinburgh was someone who brought life and verve and dynamism to our university at Edinburgh.
Hello, sir. He rather fancies himself as a dog trainer.
Oh, really? But you know, the thing about Prince Philip, nobody ever leaves him.
I just know him as the Duke.
The Duke of Edinburgh has invited me to Sandringham, the royal family's private estate in Norfolk.
How are we for sound? Are we all right, guys? So, well, we asked you to count to 5. If that's not
what about you counting to 5?
Well, I can count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
6, 7, 8, 9,
10. That's much better. How is that?
The estate is just over 20,400 acres. The perimeter of the estate is 62 miles. The areas that His Royal Highness is taking Sir Trevor are not normally open to the public. It's a special opportunity to see parts of the estate that wouldn't normally otherwise be available.
This is the Coronation Avenue.
It's a glorious drive through.
Yes. The only trouble is that, like so many of these avenues, they planted the trees too close together. Some years ago, I said, look, let's thin them out, get them... Because the bloody idiot chose the best trees, so that in some cases they're much too close together, like those two, for instance.
Yes.
And then the next place, it's a huge gap. This is Park House. This is where Princess Diana was born.
Was she born there?
She was born there, Park House.
I didn't realise.
Well, I lived there until her father moved.
The sort of day we could do with some global warming, sir, I think.
Should have brought my umbrella anyway.
So you were asked to manage this estate, sir, were you?
When the Queen succeeded, we sort of chatted about who would do what, I suppose. And I thought that if I could relieve her of the management of the estates, it would save a lot of time.
Yes. We arrive at a favourite spot, which also happens to be one of Britain's most important wildlife sites.
But you want to get up and look.
Is that all right, sir?
Yes. Make a blackguard rush at it.
Yes, exactly. I was just thinking, sir, it's not a very good idea this weather.
Brilliant, is it?
After you've just had a chest infection. But you're feeling all right now, aren't you?
Oh, yes, thank you.
It was just over 60 years ago, here at Westminster Abbey, that Prince Philip became a member of the royal family when he married Princess Elizabeth.
Let us love one another, because love is from God. Everyone who loves is born of God and knows God.
6 decades later, the family and the nation returned to celebrate. No British monarch in history had reached a diamond wedding anniversary before. After revisiting their entry in the Abbey marriage register, the Queen and the Duke met other couples who were married on the same day.
After 60 years together, what is so lovely is they are still so much in love with each other, which is wonderful. With such a strong couple, you know, you can think of a sweet old Darby and Joan, but they're not a sweet old Darby and Joan by any means. They're both very strong characters.
In private, the family celebrated with a dinner at Clarence House, after the customary photograph.
It is very interesting that you have this extraordinary contrast between the way in which Prince Philip behaves in public. He defers, quite rightly, because she is the queen. She's the ultimate, she's the boss, she's anointed, and he's just the husband. But the minute the doors clang shut and they're in private, it changes. He will feel perfectly able to say, that was a bloody stupid remark you made about so and so, and she'll take it, because in private, he was the guy who wore the trousers.
Keep your arm, the little guy.
It was he really who decided where the children were going to go to school, and in a family sense, he's the boss.
You're going to feed us now. He's been slaving away in the kitchen for ages.
After his wedding, the Duke discovered that there is no constitutional role for a queen's husband, but he had his own ideas.
He has made a very, very busy and extremely influential life for himself. And that actually, perhaps more than anything else, is a lesson in duty. Just getting on, head down, getting on with your job. Sometimes very much in the public eye, sometimes just working away quietly.
Buckingham Palace is the nerve centre for the Duke and his team.
Every day there's new bids for Prince Philip's time. He's very much a man in demand, and so as a result, his post bag is always pretty full.
He has over 800 different patronages, leaving aside what he does in support of the Queen. Those cover everything from sport through to health to art, WWF, in other words, the natural environment.
You know, last year, for example, he completed 380 engagements. And here we've got another of the filing cabinets you saw earlier. This one is an extension, although it's much bigger. It goes back down into the basement. This is a collection of photographs which the girls have put together over the years from Prince Philip's various visits. They're obviously very much in his fan club.
One of the earliest organisations adopted by the Duke was the Air Training Corps. After 55 years, he remains Air Commodore-in-Chief.
Standard, east.
Today, the Duke is opening a new squadron headquarters in King's Lynn.
I was talking to my mum about him. I went, Mum, I'm going to go see the Duke of Edinburgh and Prince Philip. She's like, this is the same person. I was like, oh.
I know he's very keen on young people learning, so I'm hoping we're going to be able to show him some of that today. I mean, they're going to show him how the radios work.
Mike Romeo Oscar 24, Mike 3. This is Mike Romeo Oscar 24, Mike 2. Radio check, over.
It's a once-in-a-lifetime chance, really, to meet the Duke of Edinburgh.
The people who've met him said he's quite funny, that he's not some stuck-up royal kind of person, so...
Carry on.
We've got 10 radios, and we've also got a base station that we can take when we go to Thetford.
Can you listen into anything interesting on this?
You switch one of those on.
It doesn't get into the police network.
No.
Oh, no. I think we just did.
You just did?
I think so.
And you do some gliding. Where did you do the gliding?
BGS Watton. So.
You haven't been taken up and made to feel sick, have you? You wait.
Back on the Sandringham estate, the tour continues.
Oh, this could be interesting.
Come on, you stupid cunt. Shut up, you stupid.
Before marriage took him down the path of royal duty, the Duke of Edinburgh had a promising career in the Royal Navy. A junior officer at the start of the Second World War, he soon saw action at the Battle of Matapan in the Mediterranean in 1941, while serving under Admiral Cunningham.
Prince Philip served very effectively in the British Royal Navy,
He was mentioned in dispatches at Matapan. He was out in the Far East, and he saw active service throughout the Second World War. And I think he was hoping, and indeed expecting, that he would be able to pursue a naval career for quite a number of years.
The Windsors are a forces family, and the Duke has close ties with all three services. Today, as Colonel of the Grenadier Guards, he welcomes a regiment back from their latest tour of Afghanistan.
The Grenadier Guards were involved in some of the fiercest fighting the army has seen in recent years. In Afghanistan last year, we suffered 5 fatalities and 32 seriously wounded.
Very nice to see everybody back again. As you know, I think everybody in this, certainly in the family of the regiment, have been paying close attention to what you've been up to. And I think everybody here is very proud of the way you performed in Afghanistan.
The Colonel, the Duke of Edinburgh, he's been through the mill as well. He's been in the Second World War. He knows about fighting, and he's on the same wavelength as what you are, you know, regardless of his title, etc.
That's not Shadrach, Your Royal Highness.
And you got a...
Shrapnel in the neck for a suicide bomber, sir.
You survived with that?
I did, sir.
You lose a lot of blood?
11 units, sir. Last time I met him, he was quite a funny guy. My girlfriend at the time was a nurse, and he... in fact, I better not say it. Get him in trouble.
The City of London. The Duke is due to launch the Colonel's Fund for injured grenadiers and bereaved families.
Guys, can you all listen in? The Grenadier Guards have a reputation of immaculate turnout. I want you to check that your shoes are immaculate. I want you to think of yourself as a guardsman for the night.
This is the Prince Philip Martini, which is a little different from how you normally make martinis. He likes the lemon to go in with the mixing of the drink. We've been making martinis Prince Philip for years, only a little bit of vermouth. You should stir that around so you get the vermouth kind of lacing the glass. Triple of the gin, when it's steeped on the ice and it's left for 10 minutes. That just kind of chills it down. It's still going to be completely clear. And hopefully you're going to end up with a martini that Prince Philip is going to enjoy.
Well, he's been our colonel for a long time now, and he understands the strains. He's had a family, and his own family have been servicemen. He's immensely approachable. He's hugely supportive. He speaks his mind. He's a plain speaker, and soldiers appreciate that.
Tonight, the martini remains on the tray.
If I get past you.
The Duke prefers a glass of water.
So we've got a selection of guys who are wounded now. We've got Sergeant MacDonald, sir, and he got lots and lots of ball bearings. They put ball bearings into the explosives, and he had a lot that came through, a lot of his teeth. His helmet saved his life. Yeah, exactly.
You shake your head, it doesn't rattle on you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I remember everything, really. I remember getting flipped into the air. I remember seeing my leg facing me.
I received shrapnel injuries to my right side, my right leg, left leg, both arms, both hands, side of my face.
I lost the lower part of my right leg.
Recovery was long, very long, but you know, I was in hospital with a... Excuse me, sorry.
Among those in the room tonight, only the Duke knows that his grandson, Prince Harry, is currently serving in Afghanistan.
The Colonel, sir.
I just wanted to confirm, although it's called the Colonel's Fund, it's not for me. And all the services are now being called upon to face problems and difficulties which they haven't done for a number of years, because there's a huge, not overstretch, but a great many people are being asked to work very hard and very long hours abroad under difficult conditions.
The Duke has ridden a very careful path. He has very strong opinions, and he knows a lot about certain areas of public life. The armed services would be an obvious example. And where he feels the need to speak out, he will put his head above the parapet. But I think he's always been very careful not to do anything that could be seen as political.
It's very much an issue for them, isn't it, the welfare of servicemen who come back, some injured?
Well, all the regiments run their own charitable trusts, and they take all of them take a lot of interest in their old comrades and people who are in trouble and distress. But of course, with all this business in all these wounded in Afghanistan and Iraq, of course, the demands are that much greater.
The Duke's own services career continued through the early years of marriage, although there were occasional royal engagements with the princess. Then in 1952 came the news which would change both their lives forever.
I mean, there is absolutely no question that the worst thing that happened in Prince Philip's life after he married Princess Elizabeth was the death of the king. Because at that point, effectively, his naval career came to an end and he didn't have the opportunity to rise to the top of the Navy, and I think that was very depressing for him. But he then, of course, immediately found himself in different circumstances and began to address how he could turn that to the best advantage.
From having been the very active head of the family, he now will be cast in a supporting role. But for a very active man, real action man, that was very hard to begin with, because he had to find out the kind of career he could make for himself.
The minute the Queen became Queen and was no longer just a princess, the whole apparatus surrounded her, took her off, and as far as the officials were concerned, Prince Philip had no standing. He was regarded with intense suspicion by the British establishment. Indeed, it would have been a preferred option for many people for the Queen to have married an actually rather dim British duke.
At one point, when somebody rather disdainfully, after he married the Queen, said, "We think you'll rather like Windsor Castle when you get to know it," and he said, "Thank you very much, my mother was born here," as indeed she had been as a great-granddaughter of Queen Victoria.
He had to make a role of his own. There was nobody to follow. He made the way that he is now, he made himself by force of circumstance. Whether he actually ever imagined that it would involve 800-odd patronages and organizations all wanting a little bit of him, I doubt.
First of all, I want to say how very, very glad I am to be here tonight. Secondly, I'd like to say how very pleased I am that I've been persuaded to become patron of the London Federation of Boys' Clubs.
More than 60 years he's been our patron. And he understands very well what we do. He knows that if you back young people and give them a challenge, they rise to it.
Good catch, guys! It's volleyball with a twist.
But you can use your hands as well.
Throughout the Duke's years as patron, the aim has remained the same, supporting youth groups like this one, AbFab.
Doesn't matter what disability you have, don't have a disability. It's just everyone all together. That's what AbFab is about, to integrate everybody.
That's it, that one? Yep.
There's lots and lots of levels. Player one, go in there, Michael. The youngster would like to present you with a hoodie, sir.
We thought it's so.
And this gentleman actually designed the logo.
And there's one on
the back that says HRH for you.
I've done the Duke's initials with a lion
with a crown.
Oh, it's in here. This is
Oh, that's it.
it's part of the design.
Oh, that's splendid. Oh, that's very kind. I'll have to try it on. Well, not here. Have you got one of those?
A few days later, the Duke again turns his hand to the other side of royal patronage. London youth needs funds.
Your Royal Highness, ladies and gentlemen, I know that the young people of the AbFab Club, they were delighted to be able to present you with a hoodie that they had made, one of the hooded sweatshirts, and I've had at least 3 telephone calls since last week asking me whether they think you're enjoying wearing it.
His Royal Highness Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh.
Young people, babies, are born totally ignorant and totally inexperienced, and they've all got to grow up and they've all got to acquire experience and understanding. If you don't give young people the opportunities to find out about life, to find out what's worth doing, and to be able to develop their capacities and their physical abilities, they're never going to get anywhere. So thank you very much for taking an interest in it. And for those of you who you find that lunches are seldom free.
He has been able to play a major part in all sorts of areas which the Queen couldn't have got involved in and wouldn't have got where they are as organisations without a push and sometimes a jolly hard shove.
But it was as long-serving leader of another organisation that the Duke was at his most outspoken.
What do you think are the most serious issues faced by conservationists and World Wildlife Fund over the next 20 years or so?
95% of the whole of the Atlantic rainforest in Brazil has disappeared in the last 100 years. There is simply nowhere for these animals to live. At the basis of it all is this colossal increase in the human population. It's one of the living species of the planet, but it's reaching plague proportions.
Here at Sandringham in Norfolk, the Duke of Edinburgh has managed a 20,000-acre royal estate for more than half a century. It's allowed him to pursue one of his great passions, conservation.
No, there's a couple of French partridges. These are the sort of things we breed. They're incredibly stupid birds. They will run it, but in front of the car. Yeah. Go on, you silly animal. She got offside of it, mustn't it?
I think probably,
we run over
hopefully we left him or her behind.
That was her.
Yeah. But you've always been interested in conservation long before it became terribly, terribly fashionable.
When I was a president of WWF International, and that was supposed to be for 3 years. At the end of 2.5 years, they then rewrote the statutes. And they said, well, you start again. I ended up by doing 15 years.
In 1961, the Duke became president of World Wildlife Fund UK. Many years before environmental issues became part of the political agenda, the Duke took a stand.
It's totally useless for a lot of well-meaning people to wring their hands in conference and to point out the dangers of pollution or destruction of the countryside if no one is willing or capable of taking any action. The impassioned speeches will be so much effluent under the bridge unless it is followed by drastic political action. Well, sir, time is fast running out.
The Duke knew very well that animals are dependent upon their environment, and indeed the whole conservation movement was aware that whereas it was easy to start by saying, there's a giant panda, it's a rare animal, unless we do something it's going to disappear, that is a very oversimplified view of things.
In the emerging era of television and global marketing, the WWF recruited the panda as its logo. The world went panda crazy. But the Duke kept his eye on bigger issues.
Well, the panda now being so very well known worldwide, how do you see the policy of the World Wildlife Fund developing?
What we're trying to do, at least in future, is to try and persuade people to, as much as possible, to coexist with the natural wildlife in their areas.
The Duke sought allies of every sort to spread the environmental message, He even lobbied the Pope.
But you also had this idea that you brought conservationists and leaders of religions together. Was that
much later? Yeah.
Much later. And the idea behind that was?
It seemed to me that most religions attributed the world to some special creation. And I said, well, look, if you believe that God created the world, you ought to take an interest in its well-being.
I was interested in reading that because at some points, some religious teaching would sort of conflict with what some of the needs of conservation are. I'm thinking about, the arguments which lead to population explosion and all that.
Well, no, the consequences of population explosion is what matters.
How did they get around that?
Well, we didn't. You can generalize about that. You quite obviously didn't confront them about that because it's not a direct issue as far as conservation is concerned. Although I think it's a direct issue for the future of the globe. I think because look what's happening now. The food prices are going up. Everybody thinks it's to do with not enough food. It's really the demand is too great.
Yes, too many people.
Too many people. Yeah.
Yes.
Basically, it's a little embarrassing for everybody, and nobody quite knows how to handle it because nobody wants their family life to be interfered with by the government.
It's certainly the case that the Duke of Edinburgh saw the conservation problems ahead of many people. People now realise that conservation is not just about them out there, it's about us. It's about our survival as well as the natural world, the rest of the natural world.
Queen Elizabeth National Park in Uganda is preparing a royal welcome. The Duke first came here with the Queen in 1954. Today, he's back to open a centre which will bring internet access to the area.
Having a person of his caliber visit here creates big publicity about the park, and we bring in more tourists here, we'll bring in more resources which will go back to the local people.
This is Tom Okello, who's the chief warden of the game park.
Yes. How many are there of you?
We are many. We are about 200 staff.
During the lunch that we had with the Duke, he talked about the need to try and encourage sport hunting to be able to stop, poaching for the wildlife for future conservation. I'm going to look up to know more about him.
The local people here are living side by side with the wild animals. Their future prosperity depends on it.
Your Royal Highness, this gentleman used to be the Member of Parliament for this area.
I was going to say, not a lot of constituents.
Yes, and the boundary was in the middle of the channel.
The elephants don't have votes, do you?
Well, they used to vote for me,
Your Royal Highness.
It's not often this community receives such a guest.
No, that's all right.
Another one?
Who's
Wildlife.
This is for Queen Elizabeth.
Who's that? You just thought of it this morning, did you?
The Duke has given conservation an important voice. He's written books, appeared on television programs, and delivered hundreds of speeches on the subject. Although he's frequently had to reconcile his concern for the natural world with his love of country sports.
The birds aren't bred here for shooting, are they, sir? No.
Well, that's not entirely true. We don't breed any pheasants here. In this area, we put down a few French partridges, but there's really... The pheasant population fluctuates, obviously.
Yes.
But you just adjust. I mean, you aim to shoot the surplus, as it were, that's all. Conservation is not a romantic business, it's a very practical business of trying to ensure that as many different species of wildlife can coexist.
Making harsh choices.
Yes, it's making choices, yeah. I mean, for instance, You get practically no wild pheasants if you didn't control the foxes. You wouldn't get any partridges if you didn't control the rats. And then you get really awkward problems, like, for instance, people don't like to admit it, but cats catch an enormous number of small wild birds. But of course, people are very attached to their cats. I mean, I don't blame them, but I mean, it's a fact of life.
The Duke's environmental principles are not confined to the countryside.
He's not just an empty theorist. I mean, he does something about it. He had, as far as I know, one of the very first electric cars that purred along, making no noise whatever, with the Duke of Edinburgh sitting in the back.
This is the Duke of Edinburgh's Bedford Smith electric vehicle, which was used in the early 80s. And if you just look under the bonnet, this is the charging point, which charges a big battery pack underneath the chassis. I think a maximum 40 miles an hour. But obviously the interior is lovely and plush, being home from home, really. The motor is 240 volts, so unfortunately it's not loud on the road anymore.
He now has another eco-friendly runaround for the city. This one runs on LPG.
The taxi, which is a Metrocab, is one he uses almost all the time in London. It works a treat there. He goes through the traffic without any outriders. Nobody notices because it's just another Metrocab.
I believe on at least one occasion, somebody has seen a taxi and gone up, tapped on the window and asked the so-called taxi driver the way to somewhere else, and then been seen wandering off, scratching his head, wondering whether he'd really seen the Duke of Edinburgh sitting in the back of a taxi.
The Duke has always had an interest in new technology. Here, at a favourite retreat on the Sandringham estate, he installed some of Britain's very first solar panels.
I'd seen them in Australia and places, and I thought we might try and see whether that would reduce the cost of heating it.
Yeah.
I think it's made a huge difference, about between 5 and 10%, I suppose. But what it does do is it takes the tap water, I mean the groundwater supply, and warms it up before it goes into the boiler. So it's energy saving rather than, it's not an alternative system.
No, but that's very popular these days, isn't it? I mean, the whole idea of that kind of renewable energy.
It probably works very well in Australia. I don't suppose it works.
not on days like this.
Well, I think Prince Philip's really interested in almost everything, but not superficially. I mean, he goes to the core of it each time.
Being Chancellor of currently 2 major universities, Edinburgh and Cambridge, gives him the opportunity to go and see and encourage. And the important thing, I think, is the encouraging innovation of the arts and the sciences.
One of the model containers.
He lights up when he can get in amongst the students. But I think he's very interested in development, in technology. He seems to show every bit as much interest now as when he first came to the university many years ago.
The Duke has been Chancellor of Cambridge University for more than 30 years, twice as long as that other famous royal consort, Prince Albert.
I've been here before and opened practically every other building. And if you go on doing this, you're going to have to change the name of the college.
He's also Chancellor of Edinburgh University, where he's always appreciated the student's point of view.
At that time, I was a student-elected rector to chair the university court by the whole student body. And of course, none of the academics or the professional people who sat on the court wanted me to chair their university governing body, but I did. And the one person who gave me enormous encouragement and support was the Duke of Edinburgh himself. He saw the changes that were taking place around us. And while not criticising anybody in the university, he made it possible for me and for others to play a larger part in university life. He used to say, I think, that the first 500 years of any institution's history is always the most difficult. And whenever there was trouble, he would repeat that phrase, recognising that universities were ancient institutions, but they were institutions that had to have the free thinking, the dynamism of creative minds working together, the challenge to traditional thinking. And he recognized that that was what a university was about.
He was the first member of the royal family to give an interview on television. He used it to warn about the state of Britain's technical skills.
Our rate of increase in productivity in this country is lower than most countries in Europe. That may have something to do with the fact that we haven't got enough people who are technically trained in industry.
What you're really out to do is to change a way of thinking.
And we know perfectly well that the people in this country have got a remarkable talent for things if they learn how to do them.
Technical training remains an important issue for the Duke. Today he's visiting Sheffield Hallam University.
Can we just welcome you to our authentic operating theatre? And our patient is a live patient that we're going to do a local anaesthetic on.
You volunteered for this?
Yes, I was volunteered.
This poor chap's got a brain tumour just down here in this part of his brain. You can see it started to squash this part of the brain here. Now, if you come over and see Jeremy over here...
How do you record the position of the thing? Because it's in 2 dimensions, that means you really need to be in 3 dimensions.
This is exactly why we use this model system here. We've got the prostate in here, and we've got the rectum at the back there. And that's the real problem, is how to get enough dose into the prostate to kill it.
We've changed places.
Yes, we've come down the body ever so slightly into the brain.
I did expect him to be a little bit taller. I know that sounds really silly. He has a nice sort of feel to him. He smiles a lot, which I think is quite nice, and he seems to be very relaxed.
I don't feel well.
Oh, dear.
Oh, dear.
Frankly, you don't look well.
Always a forward thinker, the Duke has had mixed results trying out new ideas in other areas, among them the modern media. Spring 2008. Windsor and the world's media await the most glamorous state visit in years. The Queen and the Duke will host President Nicolas Sarkozy of France and Carla Bruni, his new bride.
This state visit is, of course, for us something very special, because the French president and his new wife will be here in this very beautiful castle. We don't know yet if she will curtsy, but we have been told that she has been practicing a lot, so perhaps she will do it. We hope.
State visits used to be confined to London. It was the Duke's idea to revive the tradition of staging them at Windsor Castle. The Duke guides his guests through the protocol. Inside, the media have their photo opportunity. But it's a private occasion as the two couples exchange gifts.
I really like stamps.
Yeah, I like stamps.
So we've got some.
En tant cordial. Sur les cheveux. Parce que avec ma femme, nous voudrions vous offrir.
Ah, la Ligue.
La Ligue, c'est la Ligue.
C'est de Shakespeare. Duncan's horses.
The Duke has been given a bronze hunting dog. The high point of the visit is a state banquet for 160 in St. George's Hall.
I wish you and Madame Sarkozy a happy visit to this country. And I now ask everyone to raise their glasses and drink a toast to His Excellency the President of the French Republic, Madame Sarkozy, and the people of France.
Thank you very much.
Royalty has always been associated with tradition and spectacle. But today, people's expectations are harder to manage.
The royal family has got an extraordinarily difficult line to tread. The principle of kinship depends on a certain degree of mystery. If it becomes too mysterious and too oppressive, as it were, then the loyalty to the crown will disappear. And if you say, oh no, they're not special, they are perfectly all right, they eat cheese sandwiches and they sometimes do the washing up, to that extent you are saying, well, kings are, queens are, they're just like the rest of us. Well, if they are just like the rest of us, then eventually they would lose the kind of place which they have in our affections, in our imaginations, and in the attention we pay to them.
At the start of the Queen's reign, royal relations with the press were left to Commander Richard Colville.
Commander Colville's idea of dealing with the press was to sort of mince across the gravel and pin a note to the railings at Buckingham Palace saying the Queen has been safely delivered of a princess, or whatever, that's it. And he regarded his job as keeping the press at bay.
The Duke was to take a radically different approach. He granted unprecedented access to the media. He even starred in a film for the National Playing Fields Association, promoting proper recreational facilities for children.
Who done that? I'm about fed up with you. You ain't like it, I'll Tom down to you. Tom! Place covered, Alex, over here.
What do you boys want?
We want to see the boss.
What's the trouble? What do you want to see me about? Well, come on.
As donations trebled, the royal patron raised his charity's profile even further through the new medium of television.
It is to have you with us in the... I'm sure I don't need to tell grandstand viewers about the value of playing fields, but I think you ought to know that we still haven't got anything like enough. I've arranged to open 10 schemes this afternoon in different parts of the country which have recently been completed.
After his 1956 world tour, he became the first member of the royal family to present his own television program.
Seychelles Islands, and I've got one here. It's a dried one. This is the nut, so to speak, rather like a dried coconut. It otherwise would look like a coconut. Very peculiar shape, as you can see.
This new attitude to the media culminated in a pivotal moment in modern royal history. The Duke decided to admit cameras to film his young family at home.
The whole question of the royal family film, which was shown in 1969, was an exercise in letting the cameras in and to show the royal family what they were doing, much more, to some extent, a look behind the scenes.
What's this for? What's this for?
Well, it's for helping things, turning things over.
Prince Philip, in some ways, his instincts would have been against all that. But he could see that actually you had to do it, and you had to let light in on the institution, and television was a fact of life, and the royal family had to take account of it. And so, okay, if it meant that you had to be seen to be doing certain things on television, then so be it. Life was changing.
We hadn't really ever heard them speak before, except when they made speeches, which is, of course, rather different.
We see this is strong enough to... Get off. Get off. I wanted to say.
And we certainly hadn't heard them speaking to each other, for example.
What do you mean to do that?
A lot of people will now say that that was a disastrous mistake, and that once they'd done that, the floodgates opened and led to all the things that were happening in the 90s, with people having their telephones tapped and, you know, the sort of intrusive media. But I don't really think they had any alternative.
The nation was gripped. 30 million tuned in, a record for a documentary. The program set the scene for 2 decades of cordial royal relations with the media. But the Duke had already experienced how intrusive the press could be.
This is business of overhearing conversations. I mean, if you're having a conversation and somebody pokes one of these at you with a tape recorder behind, or one of those long listening devices which they can overhear a conversation 20 yards away, you get a bit anxious.
This is what you were specifically objecting.
Well, I don't know what this is about.
It was a quote, I think, which appeared on television that you suggested to a chap with one of these things how he might dispose of it in private conversation.
I'm delighted he took it down. I hope he did it.
The fact is the royal family had to change. They had to allow the cameras in. They had to let some light into the magic. Otherwise, they'd have become a complete irrelevance. And I think the prince was absolutely right to want to do that. You can criticize what happened subsequently, but you kind of lose control of these things.
In tomorrow's concluding portrait of the Duke.
Best thing that had happened most of these high-rise down there are disasters, most of them.
Yeah.
They're all right for elderly people.
I was allowed to read the letters. They are very touching letters. He expressed the feeling that, he himself had been a newcomer to the family once.
When he said to the president of Nigeria, "Oh, you look like you're ready for bed," it's the sort of thing that when you look at somebody and you do think, "Oh, that looks like a pair of pyjamas," and you think, well, better not say that.
And of course, this is where the infamous incident with the hen harriers is supposed to have taken place. I think the whole thing was a complete invention.